presentation. Don't y'all love the way Charlene's dressed this evening for the banquet? I thought you were going to bring a real-life chicken with you. I really did.
Well, would you like to see what's on this t-shirt?
Yeah, I would. Okay, maybe I don't. Ladies and gentlemen, with great pleasure, I present our souvenir artist for this year. She's going to strip off here.
Yes. Chicken whisperer.
She'll learn how not to ask me for things. Has this not been a great convention, seriously? It's had its flaws, that's wonderful. The food has been excellent, right?
Yeah.
And all you people are excellent. Okay. The little houses, we were asked to do a travel doll for the show a long time ago, and we finally got around to doing one. And I just absolutely love these little houses, so my wonderful friend Donna Ryan made all of the houses for you. And what's typical for Meadow dolls, and of course myself, is that they're full of goodies. So you've got her bedding, you've got her blanket, you've got a wonderful onesie, or pajamas, whichever you like to look at it, and those were made by my good friend Lori Gold. As you learn from the story on Tatta, she had dreams. And my good friend Sherry Burroughs made the little clouds that we wanted to say that she was dreaming about being Little Miss Indiana. So, let's find out what Tatta did. Tatta's adventures in the Indiana State Fair. For a little tiny bit of history, many moons ago when I was really young, I was also up for the State Fair Queen. I didn't win, but it was a really fun state fair, and this is pretty much how we dressed. Yeah. So, anyhow, Sunday's newspaper was full of pictures and information about the upcoming state fair, and the kids had to spread out on the floor to look at all of them. They were excited, and they knew what they would want to do. Tatta was especially excited to get to see all the animals and to ride the rides that she could get, because obviously she's a 5-year-old, just so you know. She dreamed all week that she would be the beautiful girl with the crown in the pictures. Can you imagine? I think I dreamed that too. On fair day, Tatta bounced her tiptoes. Okay. Trying to see over the crowd of people all around. She was so tiny she could only catch glimpses of the flashing lights and the bright colors and fast-moving rides. Miss Carson saw her lagging behind a group of kids from the foster home and encouraged her to catch up. First stop was the food truck. Now we all know, if anyone was going to the fair, what do we want? We know what we like. Okay, first up was the corn dogs. And she got her corn dog nugget dripping with mustard, crispy sweet on the outside, juicy hot dog inside, and more mustard on her chin and t-shirt than in her tummy. Even better was that stick of cotton candy she shared with her other kids.
Aww.
Fluffy, sticky, sweet, like eating a cloud. Miss Carson smiled at Tatta's messy face and used a napkin to clean her up. Of course, Tatta wiped her sticky hands on her shirt, adding more blue and pink smears to that yellow mustard. Everybody take a kid to the fair before? Boy, the memories. Free tickets for the rides had been donated to the foster children. Miss Carson selected the merry-go-round, which was one of the few Tatta was big enough to ride. The older kids ran to select their fancy horses. Tatta was more picky in her choice. She loved horses and finally chose the dappled gray with the arched neck with blue and gold saddle. Miss Carson lifted her up and then stood back to give Tatta and the freedom of enjoying her ride. No one had a bigger smile than Tatta, and the music played as her horse flew faster and faster. She clucked and encouraged him to speed up and laughed when he did just that. Much too soon, the ride was ended and slowed down. Miss Carson pulled Tatta from the saddle and smiled and as she patted her horse and nose before they left the ride. The older girls could play with the bumper cars and take that ride, and Tatta was too small. She didn't know the kids very well, and they were different from different homes. She laughed as they chased each other around and banged their cars together. She hoped next time she'd be big enough to ride the bumper cars. On the edge of the noisy rise was a petting zoo, and Tatta darted over. She loved all animals. Miss Carson bought tickets for them all, and they were given full cups of grain to feed the farm animals. Tatta was in her vision of heaven. Baby pigs, dwarf pigs, chickens, and a donkey, all of them begging for the food and crowding around to get that. Some of the children were scared and wanted to leave, but not Tatta. She remembered from a book that the foster mom read, and to hold your hand flat and the food, and the animals will not nibble at your fingers. Do you know how this works?
Yeah.
Those of us who've been in the country, boy, we learned that early. I haven't figured out how to get the chickens to quit picking at my ankles, though. Bits of grain dropped to the grass, and greedy chickens were quick to nibble them up. Tatta shared the feed best with all of the animals, and then got to scratch them before they wandered off to find someone else that had more food. She was surprised at how stiff the hair of the goats and pigs were, like bristled brushing that would hurt her head. Mr. Donkey, on the other hand, had a softer flat coat, and she loved the big round patches around his eyes. All too soon, it was time to leave the petting zoo. Tatta would drag her feet, keeping turning around to look for her friends. She really liked the animals. She wiped her hands on her top, of course, adding green and dirt-colored stains to those that already decorated her plain white tee. Tatta didn't realize that the foster group had wandered off without her. Startled at first, but then delights with the fair quickly distracted her, and off she took. Loud music and shouts of joy and groans of disappointment greeted her at the arcade. Penny watched closely as boys threw darts at balloons, mostly missing, and then the same lack of success throwing rings over pop bottles. But sometimes there would be a winner, and the prizes were all sizes of stuffed toys. A man saw the tiny girl eagerly eyeing the prizes and kindly handed the boy working the floating duck booth $1 and told Tatta to pick a plastic yellow duck. Tatta waited for just the right one and snatched it from the water. In exchange, the boy gave her a tiny bunny. Tatta was thrilled, and she turned to thank the man, but he was gone. The bunny was faded, pink with a bright red ribbon and a floppy eye, but Tatta loved him just the same. She gave him a big hug, named him Pinky, and snuggled him in both hands. Tatta noticed 2 larger buildings close by and thought it might be nice to find a place to rest. She had been walking for a very long time on those little 5-year-old legs. In the first red barn building, the first found the restroom and carefully washed her hands as she'd been taught. Taking a long drink at the water fountain, she was ready to go again. Off she went to explore. The walls were lined with displays of barred quilts, vegetables. Tatta and Pinky wandered down the aisles, selecting their favorites from everything. They both agreed that the quilt covered with the herd of colorful sheep was their favorite. It had a blue ribbon hanging on it. There were ribbons hanging everywhere. Penny Todd guessed that it must be the prize. Rows of fresh vegetables, baskets filled with the rest of the building, and Tatta recognized many she didn't. They were colorful carrots, even a dark purple. She liked carrots, but she wasn't sure about the purple. She squealed with delight when a giant pumpkin that was too big for her to put her arms around. Tatta looked shyly at the lady holding the plate that looked like it was really good stuff, and it was the bites of watermelon. The lady handed her a big chunk on a popsicle stick. Carefully carrying Pinky and her yummy treasure over to the bench, Tatta crawled up on the rest while greedily gulping the yellow melon. The sticky juice dripped from her chin and her hands, and of course it went on that shirt again. She licked every bit of the juice off her fingers. It was nice sitting there, and then wiped her hands on her shirt. There was one more building to explore, and there was interesting noises coming from it, lots of noises. Tatta stopped at the entrance in surprise. A huge building was full of animals. Stalls along the wall held horses, and of course, she had to start there. She totally forgot that how tired she was. She danced from stall to stall, admiring the beautiful animals. One stall even had a baby in it. The baby was stretched out, sound asleep, and Tatta held Pinky up so she could see the baby. The last stall had a black horse sticking its head out of the stall door. You ever have a horse lick your hand? Well, sniff, sniff, and lick. She laughed at how it tickled. The horse went back to his rack, and Tatta told him goodbye. Loud sounds squawked from her attention and got into the row of chickens and ducks in the cages. They weren't their average chickens and ducks. I think they belonged to somebody named Mrs. Smith. Tiny ones strutted around their cages, and they were the boss of everyone. We know what those kind of chickens were. There were rows and rows of cows tied up with bales and keeping them apart, and all kinds of colors. Quiet mooing mingled with the baaing of the sheep, and Tatta loved sheep. She wanted Pinky to see and meet the sheep. Her steps had slowed considerably, but she was determined. The sheep were so peaceful lying in the straw, and their eyes half closed, realized how tired she was and yawned. She thought she might take a tiny rest and then find the others. The mama sheep didn't seem to mind when she crawled under the rope and found a little patch of piled up hay near the lamb. Well, thumb in her mouth, Pinky snuggled under her chin. Tatta was sound asleep. Suddenly whispers surrounded, getting louder and louder. Excitement and relief were in the voices. Tatta opened her eyes slowly, surprised at all the people smiling down at her. Even Mrs. Garson was there, and she had tears in her eyes as they handed the messy little girl covered with straw in her red hair. Do you know why Tatta had red hair? Asked Billy. Tatta entertained the crowd with the details of her adventures, still having everybody that was worried about her, and she had been lost girl, for now everyone just enjoyed the sight and the sound of the happy, brave child as she rambled on with a smile on her face. Time to go home, and Tatta led the parade tour of the relieved searchers. There was one last surprise for Tatta. A beautiful young lady came to her and draped a white ribbon over her shoulders. The ribbon said, "Little Miss Indiana State Fair." Tatta didn't understand exactly what that meant, but she sure liked the shine and the glitter of it, and it brightened her smile. Oops. I shouldn't touch these things. Okay, I'll behave now. She whispered a thank you to the pretty girl and then leaned over to hug her neck, and the crowd all clapped, and they went home. Tatta would get one more than just one beautiful ribbon that were to remind her of the state fair experience. After reading the story in the paper of the little girl from the orphanage and her adventure, Tatta was adopted, and she got her crown and her forever family. We'd like to really thank the people who got Tatta at the event, and those who will get her centerpiece. It is a wonderful story about a little girl who gets adopted. Thank you.
A sneak peek of something right there.
See you next year.
Oh. Well, that's her big sister that she adopted. And do you see where she's going?
New Orleans.
Right. And so I think her big sister is going to be your next year's event.
Oh.
I'm not telling. Thank you.
I want to say a huge thank you to my patrons from Patreon. Lindsay S., Leah W., Doreen Z., Janice H., Mercedes W., Cindy K., Bear Sunflower, Diane B., Kelly L., Shorna R., Stephanie W., Shalane C., Penny P., Louisa's Knickknacks, Marty G., and Lynn. Your support means so much to me and helps me continue bringing you great Dolly content. For more information on how you can become a supporter of this channel, check the link in the video description. Thank you.